Welcome to the Weichert Report's first edition of the weekly After Action Report. My name is Brandon Weichert, founder and CEO of the Weichert Report. This is your week in review. Turkey. Democracy is like a streetcar. You ride it until you arrive at your destination, and then you step off. President Recep Erdogan. Those are the words of the current Islamist and neo-Ottomanist president of Turkey, the aforementioned Recep Erdogan. This last week, an abortive coup attempt was shut down in Turkey. The coup was conducted by a group of moderate Sufi Muslims belonging to a banned opposition group known as the Gulen movement in Turkey. It was directed against Erdogan and his ruling Islamist party. The coup, I believe, was the last best hope to have a reliable moderate partner running the government in Turkey. While the Gulen movement enjoyed considerable popularity among elements of the armed forces, intelligence, and police services, it seems that it had little support among the Turkish people, who took to the streets in defiance of the coup. Indeed, the coup ultimately ended, and has served as a necessary pretext for President Erdogan to institute a horrific crackdown, something that he has been in the process of doing since 2013, when charges of immense corruption were lobbed against Erdogan and his ruling Islamist party. What's more, Erdogan has systematically dismantled the institutions of democracy in Turkey since taking power. Indeed, it is said that there are more journalists in Turkish prisons today than anywhere else in the world, and that's quite a sobering statistic to behold when you think that there are places like China that are included in that statistic. The Gulen movement is not without its own problems. Its leader, Fethullah Gulen, is currently living in exile in the Poconos. It's a nice place to be in exile, if you have to be. He has amassed a large fortune, purportedly stemming from his management of the country's largest charter school network, a network of schools that seeks to teach Sufism to young Muslims in America. In fact, in 2008, the New York Times ran a rather flattering headline of Gulen's schools in America, or expose on Gulen's schools in America that indicated he was teaching a more benevolent form of Islam to young children, unlike the Pakistanis and Saudis. Gulen has also made significant inroads with the two political parties in the U.S., donating small fortunes to both Democrats, notably Hillary Clinton, who accepts a lot of money from people, as well as the Republicans. However, it was recently revealed that the FBI was investigating Gulen for having illegally obtained his fortune, being involved in questionable employment practices in his schools, and having deep ties with radical jihadist groups. It should also be noted that the Obama administration has categorically denied any involvement with the coup attempt, and Secretary of State John Kerry has reported that he is reviewing President Erdogan's extradition request for Gulen following the coup. Erdogan is threatening serious diplomatic retribution against the United States should the U.S. fail to hand Gulen over. Yet, whatever iniquities may exist within the character of Fethullah Gulen himself, we cannot disassociate the relatively benign disposition of the Sufi sect itself. Gulen and his followers were devout practitioners of Sufi Islam. Sufi Islam is hated by both Shia and Sunni Islam, particularly the Wahhabi sect of Sunni Islam, for being heretics. The Sufis worship Allah through dance, for instance, something that is strictly forbidden and viewed as idolatry by most Muslims, and the Sufis tend to be far more concerned with bettering the temporal existences of all mankind as opposed to bringing about the end of days through jihad as the Wahhabists are. As a side note, the term whirling dervishes is actually a reference to Sufis, as the Sufi dancer worshippers are known as dervishes, who would make their long robes whirl as they worshipped. So the next time that you hear a seasoned citizen back here in the States describe a young child as a whirling dervish, you know where this phrase emanates. There is a great Sufi joke, in fact, that encapsulates the so-called heresy of the Sufis in the eyes of other Muslims. It goes like this. There was once a man who was caught eating during the fast of Ramadan, at a time when it was punishable by death, imprisonment or death, for a Muslim to be caught eating during this holy period of Ramadan. The man, a dervish, was promptly arrested and thrown into jail. As he peered longingly through the bars of the jail cell, he saw a man outside eating a kebab, as he had been doing. Shocked, the dervish frantically called to the man on the street, "Hey, you are eating a kebab." "Yes," the man replied. "So what?" he asked indignantly. The dervish went on to explain, "Don't you know it's Ramadan? If they see you, they'll arrest you and throw you in this jail with me." The man on the street shook his head and replied, "No, they won't. I am a Christian." The dervish was flabbergasted by the man's response. You mean that because you are a Christian, you are allowed to eat a kebab in the street in broad daylight during Ramadan? He asked, mystified. Yes, the man said nonchalantly. The dervish was deeply saddened and replied to the man, You should give thanks to Allah every day that you are not of the true faith, Islam in this case. Many in the West have assumed that the coup attempt in Turkey was a classic battle of secular modernists versus Islamic conservatives. Indeed, we at the Weikert Report were surprised that more secular elements did not glom onto the coup, given the moderate tendencies of Sufism. Yet we should not miss the point that the coup was a battle between a more moderate sect of Islam, Sufism, and a more traditional Wahhabi variant, similar to the kind that dominates Saudi Arabia and Pakistan today. Whatever the foibles of Fethullah Gulen himself, no one can deny that most Sufis, the majority of the people who comprise the coup plot, are moderate Muslims who favor modernity, the very people we in the West claim we want to see in power throughout the Middle East. Indeed, despite recent Obama administration claims that the Gulen movement was a radical Islamist organization, the fact that they were Sufis should discredit such a claim. It is strange to me that the Obama administration would castigate the Sufis, especially when the administration so readily defended the Sufi leader who wanted to build a mosque at the site of the 9/11 attacks in New York not that long ago. While there certainly can be militant Sufis, there are militant groups and people within all religions. The fact remains that under Erdogan, Turkey has become slowly consumed by an Islamist winter. This would not be the case under a Sufi Islam regime in Turkey. Under Erdogan, Turkey has supported various jihadist groups throughout the Middle East in an attempt to rebuild the Ottoman Empire with Erdogan as its sultan. Turkey has even lent some support to the Islamic State. Turkey has been a nominal contributing member to the coalition war against the Islamic State, despite the fact that it has suffered terrorist attacks perpetrated by IS, and that its geography is so close to the ongoing civil war in Syria, and the fact that it is a member of NATO. Indeed, this coup has only served to complicate the already complex relationship between Turkey and the West. Geopolitically, the United States stands to lose as Erdogan completes his Islamization of the country and aggregates any remaining power toward himself as supreme ruler. Meanwhile, in recent weeks, he has grown closer with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. As such, I suspect that Erdogan will embark upon a perilous two-track policy. He will seek to maximize the amount of diplomatic gains he can extract from the U.S. in the aftermath of the coup, while securing his border with the resurgent Russia by becoming increasingly friendly with the Russians. Meanwhile, Erdogan will only intensify his support of jihadist networks, thereby further destabilizing the Middle East. And what's more, he will undoubtedly allow his country's lax immigration policies to continue. This means that the ceaseless flow of migrants from the Middle East into Europe will continue unabated, as will the unfettered travel of European jihadists into the Middle East and back. This will all lead to further instability within Europe and will only exacerbate the ongoing trend of European disintegration, as I discussed recently in both my Brexit article as well as 2 days ago, the article European Disunion, Ask the Germans. Please see the links below. The Gulenist coup was a seismic event in geopolitics. It will have lasting impact not only on internal Turkish politics, but it will also further the undesirable reordering of the Middle East that has been underway for decades now. It will move the Mideast farther away from the U.S. It will antagonize pre-existing hostilities within the Islamic world, which will have effects on the rest of the world, and it will likely lead to a greater destabilization of the region as well as further European disintegration. The one party to win out from all of this is Russia, whose leader, Vladimir Putin, belongs to the Neo-Eurasianist school of thought, as I documented in our article on Vladimir Putin a few months back. This means that he wants Russia to sit atop a Eurasian-wide empire that can ultimately challenge the U.S. In order to do this, he believes that he must sow discord among the states along his western border in Europe, he must prevent the Turks from reasserting their former imperial glory in the Middle East, and he must make peace with the more dynamic forces along his eastern borders like China, Japan, and South Korea. All of his objectives are being met. And as Russia grows stronger geopolitically in that region of the Middle East and weakens the Europeans, the United States' position in that part of the world will be weakened as well. Lastly, the war against the Islamic State will suffer as Turkey seeks to continue and probably intensify its double dealing and with jihadist groups. This will ostensibly allow Turkey to create instability in Syria as they're trying to topple the secular strongman of Assad, but given their newfound love of Russia in Turkey, I don't know how much farther they're going to push that, since Assad is a client of Russia, and right now Erdogan needs a friendly Russia. Needless to say, the next president is going to have his or her hands full mending this vital, absolutely vital relationship with an increasingly authoritarian Islamist Turkey. Please stay tuned for further updates. This has been the After Action Report on the Turkish coup. My name is Brandon Weichert, founder and CEO of the Weichert Report, and I thank you for your time.